high-tech oils, available from Auto One, Sprint Auto Parts, and all leading independent auto stores.
On today's show, with the 2016 Shannons Nationals fast approaching, it's time to look back at some classic action from the archives. Sydney Motorsport Park is the venue, and we go back to 2013 with the opening round of that year's Kumho V8 Touring Car Series, and then fast forward a few months to July and to the fourth round of the Australian GT Championship. And later in the show, we head to Darwin's Hidden Valley drag strip and rewind the clock to last year's Northern Territory titles, featuring the Top Door Slammers as part of the Andra Drag Racing Series. This is Speedweek.
The Holden versus Ford battle remains well and truly alive. The Kumho Tyres Australian V8 Touring Car Series remains a bastion for the traditional Aussie motorsport rivalry between red and blue, between Ford and Holden, and this year it's taken another step forward. Draws alongside at Gardner Straight.
Big look down the inside.
Oh, contact! And Evangelou's sent round.
Oh,
bang!
Oh, what a big hit that was.
While some cars look new and some sport a traditional look that makes you remember the V8 days of old, there's one constant across the field: close and competitive racing. And Josh Hunter is being swamped by the field. And you'll see it all here at round one of the Kumho Tyres Australian V8 Touring Car Series at Sydney Motorsport Park. Sydney Motorsport Park has dawned bright and sunny for round one of the Kumho Tyres Australian V8 Touring Car Series for 2013 in conjunction with the Shannons Nationals. It's about 25 degrees today. Perfect conditions for some intense motor racing in a brand new season. This is a great racetrack. It's a driver's racetrack and one that throws up a lot of variables to drivers across its 3.8 Ks. It's 11 turns and it features a couple of key overtaking opportunities as well. Our chauffeur for a hot lap is Steve Briffa. He's new to this series, but not new to this racetrack. It is, in fact, his home circuit. And his Aussie Tyres VZ Commodore will take us for a wild ride around Sydney Motorsport Park. Fifth gear through turn one, and then down to third for this long, sweeping turn two. Grab second and feed the power on, and the road immediately ducks back to the right-hand side for turn three, and then over the famous crest and down into a series of really good corners at turns 4 and 5. Third gear for Briffa, flowing the car through this really fast bit of racetrack. New runoff on driver's right, and this is the new turn 6, which is now an opportunity to overtake, which is what Briffa's done right there. And then one of the great corners, turn 7, Corporate Hill, fast, fourth gear, full of commitment. An exit into a passing zone at the very famous hairpin. This is where everybody always comes together while dicing for track position. A good run out of there is critical because that sets you up for that long run all the way down to turn 1 once again, through 9 and 10, right over that curb. Then turn 11 is important because it sets you up for 800 odd metres of long start-finish straight here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Impressive South Australian youngster Dan Day has done a lot in his short motorsport career, including a top-line career in Australian rallying, but this year he's made the switch to the Kumho V8 series.
I'm 18 years old. I've been racing for about 5 years now. I started off in the smaller sort of events like Motorcarnas and whatnot, and I moved up to the rallying. So this year's going to be a big learning curve for us. It's totally different to the rallings. The cars are big horsepower, rear-wheel drive, so it's going to be a big learning curve, but I'm looking forward to it.
To help make the switch, Dan's got himself a pretty handy piece of ex-V8 supercar machinery.
It's an ex-John Bow Brad Jones racing car. So it was Drew Ross's old car in the last 2 years of development series, and it's been going to be a very good, quick car, so I'm still getting a handle on it. It's totally different to what I'm used to.
Another new impressive South Aussie rookie this year is youngster Josh Keane, who was fast last season in another Holden versus Ford category.
Yeah, stepped up to the V8 touring cars. We started in saloon cars last year, our first year actually in motor racing, and had quite a good year. We missed Bathurst and still managed to finish second in the championship, so pretty happy.
Keane says that stepping up into the V8 touring car has been something of an eye-opening experience.
It's unbelievable, you know, the power is ridiculous, the brakes are ridiculous. It's something where you've got to be physically fit and mentally, you know, it's one of those things where you've got to be 100% committed. If you're not going to go somewhere, you know, you're not going to get there. You've got to be on it all the time.
Porsche Carrera Cup Australia frontrunner Shay Davies also joins the series this year, and thanks to his pedigree, he must be considered a title contender.
I've come from Formula Ford. We did some Australian Formula Ford Championship last year and raced in the US as well in their Formula Ford Championship. Got some race wins in both series and moved up to Carrera Cup this year as well as these V8 touring cars.
The Porsche and the V8 are vastly different animals, so how does Shay compare the two?
The power delivery is a lot harsher in the V8 supercar, and the Porsche handles a little bit better overall, but they're still a race car. They still do very similar things, but just in subtle areas like power delivery and turn-in, they're different, but thankfully not worlds apart.
Race 3 of the Kumho Tyres Australian V8 Touring Car Series here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Full field lining up, combined points from the first two races. Justin Geary, though, he's the man to beat. He starts from pole. He's
been in amazing form, and it's not just the raw speed, but consistency in race 2 as well was impressive to watch, and he's on pole. Morgan Haber alongside. Geary just gets into position, slight roll before the start. They're underway. Good start from Waihoon from the second row. Shay Davies follows him through, but Assailant sweeps around the outside. He's done a Policina and dices with Waihoon through one, but Terry Waihoon will lead them up to turn 2 for the first time. Everyone through cleanly, but a wild start. A couple of guys going forward in a big way.
It's been the weekend of gun starts. We saw Jim Policina in race 1 do it. Justin Geary, though, goes back the other way as we get through turn 2. We jump on board with Policina, runner-up in the series last year, has had drama and grief in both of the races so far. He's desperate just to put a couple of points in the bank, but out front, Terry Waihoon up and running.
Policina just sliding around on cold Kumhos, but he'll try and work his way forward in car 7. Assailant, strong start. Davies, a strong start. He'll be one to watch. He's been a little frustrated this weekend, but has had so much speed and qualified on pole on Saturday. As the back of this field sort themselves out, Chris Delsma dicing there with Policina down the inside, Vagodas in behind. And Josh Keane, the young saloon car racer from last year from South Australia, working his way forward in that team dynamic Jason Richards Commodore.
It's a busy opening lap in this final race of the weekend. I've got a feeling action stations are on in this one, Rich, because everyone's fired up. There's been a bit of drama in the first two races, a little bit of contact, but Terry Waihoon, the Lubramax Falcon, the ex-Stone Brothers car, was slow earlier in the weekend. Really uncharacteristic form from Terry. It's hooked up now. It's driving away from the field. Nathan Assailant doing great. He's up to second, and you see that black 00 car, Matt Charter there. That's the ex-Colour Scan car that Rodney Forbes drove. It was the Milk Falcon many a year ago.
Now, Justin Geary, first. We talked about cars moving forward. He's gone from 1st to 7th or 8th position at the end of this opening lap. So he's a long way down the field. And remember, he needs to drive for points to try and seal that round win away. So he's sort of thinking of different things as Davies goes down the inside of Haber. Typical textbook Sydney Motorsport Park pass, and Evangeli with a massive moment. Back of shot, and he's gone round.
Now, I wouldn't mind betting he didn't DIY that one. I think there may have been just a little bit of assistance. Look out here, Lyle Kearns goes to the outside. I think Justin Geary may have been involved in that contact or that incident down there at turn 2, but regardless, it's Waihoon, Assailant, Shay Davies moving forward, Haber next in the queue, and Geary just needs to stay out of drama. If he stays where he is, he'll still win the round.
Oh, this is feisty, isn't it? You just feel some stuff. This is a good series, it really is. Here's Briffa looking on Ambrosio, round at 6, and we'll get the switch back, try and put it up the inside around the back of Corporate Hill. Brave to do this because this is a full commitment corner, and just backs up. Slight touch, well caught by Ambrosio.
And this is the ex-Larry Perkins car that LP had his last full-time season in. Paul Dumbrell had a run in it, Stephen Richards. Jack Perkins debuted in the development series in this car. It's been around, it's done plenty of miles. He's sharing a game with Dean Kovacevic again, the two Western Australians who travel backwards and forwards to the East Coast to compete in the Kumho series. But it's strong at the front, it's fast at the front. Waihoon's got a margin, but there's fast cars fighting their way back through the pack. Davies looks strong, Geary is still strong. Haber's been involved in all sorts of action this weekend. This sets up a really good run home.
So this is the freight train for the lead. Waihoon, a Sailor who has been so impressive and continues to be so in race 2. Then back to Davies, he's 3rd, Haber 4th, Justin Geary 5th. And Davies looking aggressive early, got a lot of pace on board the number 3 car. And was that a brake lock-up just in the background for Evangeli, for Waihoon, I should say?
I was just going to say, Rich, have a look at the passenger door side of the Nathan Sailor Falcon. We're looking back, we're now looking forward from Terry Waihoon's car. It looks like the passenger perspex window is loose and flapping. They'll keep an eye on that in race control, because if it does flap around and there's the danger that it can fly out, they might bring that car to pit lane to have it looked at.
Evangeli, clear racetrack in front, and he might not want to look at his rearview mirrors because it's awfully busy behind him. And there is that window, yeah, so it's just dislodged itself from the mounting in the top of the window and just hanging out. Not flapping around too much around the back in the slower speed stuff, so as long as it doesn't look like it's going to fall out any further than it has, it should be okay.
There's an easy way to get rid of it. Let someone hit you in the door. Probably not the best way to do it. We wouldn't recommend it, but
I don't think that's ever been said before. I'm going to let someone hit me in the door in Kumho V8 racing, because generally ends badly.
Well, it almost is blown out. It's still hanging there, but if it stays there, I reckon they might bring him in to look after that, because if it flies out either back onto the track or into another car, it's no good. Problem, Matt Charter has stopped there on the inside of the final turn, and this is a shame for him, the former Uten Formula 4 driver who's having his first run in the old AU Falcon this weekend, and they had some fuel system problems with that car earlier in the weekend, but they got it together thanks to Chris Delsmar. Talking about getting it together, Shay Davies, rookie on debut in the Kumho series, has the big look at turn 1.
You just wince when they go down there like that, because we saw the incident in race 2 between Morgan Haber and Tony Evangeli, and often doesn't end particularly well overtaking at turn 1. Such a fast, full commitment corner. Shame for Charter. Saw his family standing on top of the pit building down at turn 1 as we were walking our way up to get ready for this race, as Evangeli works his way past. So he's charging his way forward. But the whole family contingent here for Charter this weekend. He did good things in Formula 4 last year. He's a good young kid. They're doing it on a very tight budget as a couple of youngsters go side by side. Ford and Holden, Day and Keane. Josh Keane emerged onto the landscape last year, Noons, in saloon car racing, and on a couple of occasions beat the champion in that series, Simon Tabernoy. And if you do that, you're doing good things, and has stepped up into the Kumho V8 series this year.
A couple of young South Australians, of course, home track for them for round 2 at Mallala Motorsport Park. But this is getting willing. Davies down the inside on a Sailor. A little bit of a lock-up, a little bit of a slide, gets the move done, so he's charging back. Remember, he qualified on pole at the beginning of the weekend, pit lane penalty in race 1, and ended up finishing back in 16th. He got to 4th in race 2. He's a chance here to get to the lead in race 3, and if Geary drops back, he could still claim the round.
It's just brewing, isn't it? It's brewing, and Geary closing in. He's got to play a game in this race, Justin Geary. He cannot get involved too much in this. The racer in him will want positions, will want more points, but he's got to think about the round result and just bring home the points he needs. Here's Haber on a Sailor, turn 1. Seen this before, grabs the brake, but not quite close enough. The Sailor's just lost a bit of track position, and this will open things up at turn 2. He's not quite close enough this time round. Morgan Haber, who has been fast and feisty all weekend long. Having said that, a Sailor very wide at 2, and they will go side by side through turn 3. Sailor's doing a good job of hanging on, and this is just dropping them off that leading trio ever so slightly.
There's no doubt Haber's been fast. Last year he was quick. He took a range of pole positions, but he was a little bit reckless. But he's still young. He's still learning. He's aggressive. There's no problem in having to speed him up. You've got to slow him down a little bit. He's just starting to get a little bit impatient here. Geary is going with them. Top 2 are getting away from them here. Looks like Haber's down the inside, but he's locked the rears. Takes out a Sailor. Geary gets 2 free spots, and the 2 Queenslanders are out in the dirt.
2 deep under brakes, rear brakes locked up, lost driving control, and made contact with a Sailor. Ends a strong run for a Sailor. He's dropping back, just passed by Briffa, who's working his way forward. That was an unfortunate incident, but it shows how tough it is at the top.
I didn't think anyone would take the window out by hitting him literally, but just about
They were listening to. They're going to come after you after this race. So Briffa has made a little bit more ground, continues to chip away the bottom half of the top 5. Here's another look and you'd think just a little bit too hot into turn 6, which they've reprofiled, remember, in recent years. Started last season, they changed the entry, they got rid of the dogleg, they changed the corner to make more overtaking. Not quite sure they pictured exactly that, though.
I don't think that was in the memorandum when they decided to redesign that, but the racing's been top-notch this weekend. Anyone who thought the Kumho Series was a bit of a turn up and cruise and grab a trophy, wrong.
And the thing that's got me about this race, Nunes, in particular, is the pressure that's been on the front. And it's something you pick up in the main game and even the development series, is that just relentless pressure. And sometimes we haven't quite had that in this series. We do now. It is on at the front, and they are just continuing to drive at a really high level and applying pressure, like Shay Davies is doing now, to the back of Terry Waihoon. Justin Geary, in a round-winning position, sits back in third place. Fords 1, 2 and 3. Where's the nearest Holden? Long way down the road. I think we might have to go all the way back to Briffa to get to the top GM product. So, well, here's a couple of them anyway, dicing for track position. Matt Hansen in the thick of the action there in the XHRT Commodore. And a big lock up from Vagonis. And that beautifully restored Aussie mail forward.
And Hansen a bit further back in the pack. He may have had a spin to put him back that far, but great to see here. 3 cars in livery. HRT, Team Dynamic, and Brad Jones Racing Aussie Mail. John Vagonis has done a fantastic job on this car. It actually was the white Brad Jones car back in the day, but he thought that the black of John Bowe looked better, so he's gone for that livery for this year. It's great to have him back. That car looks absolutely a treat. He's still learning his way. They only just got it ready to come here. He comes from Katoomba, so he's very much a New South Welshman, but he's been an important part of this series over the years. He was here when it started. He's back in 2013, but Josh Keenan is at the other end of the spectrum. First weekend in, learning the ropes and having a little bit of a drama running wide.
And this car did a one-off appearance last year as well, as we see a change for the lead. Davies muscles his way down the inside. Too hot though, runs wide. Geary goes to second. And Davies back to third. Waihoon holds on. So this is great racing for the lead, and the man in the best position to win the round gets another position. And this is what we spoke about a few laps ago, Nunes, was all Geary's got to do, just keep track position, and everyone else falls off around him.
He hasn't done a thing to get any of these spots. The others have all had some form of drama, and next thing he knows, he's on the back of Terry Waihoon and staring at a third straight race win if he can get by. Replay the move. Davies is in the gap. Waihoon tries to cover, but Shay's in too deep. Doesn't run it all the way off the road, and importantly, doesn't lock a right front tyre. Look at him go down the inside. The rear starts to step out, hangs onto it, lives to find another day. He's got pace though. He's going to be back on the scene very shortly.
And now Geary starts to attack the back of the Lubramax Ford. So Terry Waihoon has held on from everybody in this race, backs the car into the hairpin, starting to struggle for rear grip. Remember, race 3, a longer race than the 2 we've had so far. So the Kumhos have got to do a little bit more work, getting 600 odd horsepower to the ground. Waihoon's done such a good job of leading this race from the start, continues to hold on, but Geary now putting the pressure on like he's done in races 1 and 2. He's looking ominous in car 23.
He really does look very, very quick. This car run by the Sydney Star team. Aaron Tebb, who we saw race last year in the series, has been working on the preparation, and there's nothing wrong with it. It is right in the slipstream down at turn 1. He's closing in on Terry Waihoon. These two had a great dice here 2 years ago in the Kumho series. They've changed the name of the track since. They've modified one of the corners, but the boys in the action is still the same.
So Waihoon holds on and just gets a little bit of a car length or two over Geary. Davies continues to hold on in third. An enthralling battle for the lead between a trio of very fast Fords, very well driven too. And it goes back to that pressure we were talking about before. And that's what we've seen here so far. And I think of all of them this weekend, Geary's been perhaps the best at applying it, and Waihoon's been the best at taking it, because he's just been attacked from all sides in this race and continues to hold on.
This is not done with though, Rich. These top 3 have driven away from the rest of the field. There is no one in the back of shot. Davies, first weekend in a V8 touring car, not afraid to have a run at things and really throw this car around. That's when you've got to be careful though, because they're heavy cars. You can overdrive them, cook the tyre, and they don't come back. Very different to the Porsche Carrera Cup car he drives. It's got a bit more grip, it's got a bit more aerodynamics. He's sitting on the other side of the car. It's a little bit lighter, so he's got to adjust his brain. That's Lyle Kearns, the Queenslander's had a spin at the hairpin, and he's stranded on the exit. And from our commentary point, he's still sitting there. He's struggling to get that car going. So if he doesn't get going shortly, we might see a safety car.
And there we do. It's been called. So safety car on the racetrack. That is the reason. And they put this new concrete runoff there on the exit of the hairpin for this very reason, to try and avoid this very reason. In fact, there was a gravel trap there, and they were hoping that concrete on the outside they'd be able to recover cars quickly. But we are under caution. The safety car is out, and it bunches the field up. And if Terry Wyhoon had to deal with suppression before, boys, he got some now, because instead of 3 cars, he's got Chris Smurden and Jim Policina and just about everyone else. Here's Briffa. Big moment. This is up at turn 11.
And no one within sight when he went around, so that's another DIY. He's done it all himself, gets it running again. That's a real shame. On board with Maury Pickering in the Finance Easy Ford. This is actually a Steve Ellery super cheap car from 10 years ago. Went through the Cedars boys' hands. It was rebuilt completely at the Paul Morris Workshop on the Gold Coast, from where it is actually now run by PMM. And of course, Maury's team also running in the Development Championship this year. We're set to go back to green flag conditions. Terry Wyhoon leads us back to the control line. It's a 2-lap sprint to the checkered flag. And Rich, a guy who this is great news for is Tony Evangelou in the Cat Falcon. He's further back in the pack, but this closes him up. He's got a chance to grab a few spots back after that contact he had down here at turn 2.
Well, I think it brings a couple of guys back into the game that weren't in it before. One of them's Jim Policina, who's been fast but unlucky. Chris Smurden's looked pretty good. Briffa, despite the spin we saw before, has had plenty of car speed. So all of a sudden there's a group of 6 or 7 cars that weren't in contention that now are. They can fight for a podium. 2
words spring to mind here, Rich. Game on. This is going to be great for the run.
I was going to say good series, but well, hey, it works.
Same thing. Look at this. Geary is in the perfect position, though, to win the round. He doesn't need to win the race. He doesn't need to do anything silly. Haber's got pace. He's 4th in the game here. Smurden next. Jim Policina there, but at the front, this is not done with yet. Wyhoon has looked a little vulnerable for pace in the last few laps before the safety car. Let's see how they get running at cold tyre temperature and pressure and see who's strongest, because they've only got, well, basically now
Davies.
a lap and a half to go as Davies backs it in at the hairpin. Wyhoon sideways on the exit. It's go time now.
They're all sliding around. I was going to say Davies and Haber are the X factors for me in this, because they're the 2 wild ones so far this weekend. They've been the ones making the move, so they're going to be the ones to watch. Up to turn 12, Geary. Wyhoon very, very wide. Justin Geary might try and get himself another race win. Down the straight they go. This is on. This is well and truly on, and a couple of Fords leading the way. They've been dominant this weekend. Watch for Geary, just tucking into the toe of Terry Wyhoon.
And look for Davies too. Look for Haber. Young guns using the Kumho series to prove what they can do. Last lap at Sydney Motorsport Park. Geary, he's not going to play it smart. Here he's close. He's nearly in the gap. He rattles the back bumper of the Lubrimax Falcon. Davies fills the gap and jumps to 2nd. Oh, this is willing.
It's not over yet, and they're side by side out of turn 3. Geary back to 3rd place. Needs to be careful. He's got a round win to look after, and all of a sudden, Shea Davies in the game for a race victory. Down the inside of Wyhoon. They'll go side by side through turn 4. This has come alive in the final lap.
I don't see a winner here. I only see losers. Now Wyhoon locks it up. Davies is back down the inside to the race lead. Wyhoon trying to get back onto the road. Haber down the inside. 3 wide. He's locked it up. Contact between all 3.
Gets into Geary and they all run wide. And Chris Smurden drives through. Jim Policina drives through. Wild stuff down at turn 6. Second time in this race that Morgan Haber's gone in and locked the rears. And Policina finds himself fighting for a podium. Here's Briffa down the inside of Wyhoon.
Look at this. Muscles down the inside. Last lap, it's on. He runs him out of road.
And Briffa gets a position and a thank you return serve from Policina behind as well. Wyhoon's got massive issues. Hansen in there too. This fight is on. Not over yet either.
No, Geary's got massive drama. He's got damage. He's limping to the line back in the pack.
Oh, Jim.
Wyhoon into the side of Policina.
That was wild stuff, and Policina goes, what's going on? All we know is Shea Davies will get the race win. What a final lap at Sydney Motorsport Park. Smurden 2nd and Briffa 3rd. How did Steve Briffa finish 3rd?
There's Geary. He's limped it to the line. Damage to the left front.
He won't get the round win with those points. He will not get the round win at this stage. And this will get messy. Cam McConville, we've talked about how busy he's been. He has got some work to do after that one, Noons.
Wow, that's all I've got to say about that. What a way to finish round 1 of the series at Sydney Motorsport Park. Shea Davies wins his first Kumho Series race. Smurden 2nd from the clouds. Wyhoon 4th. The Goddess Knight, Geary, is moved up to 10th.
A wild race in the Kumho V8s. A happy winner, though, will be Justin Geary.
Yeah, the last race was pretty nuts, to be honest. We got in an incident and then we were forced to, I don't know, we finished 12th in the last one or something. And then, yeah, 1 point off the round win, and Morgan Haber got penalised for it, and he got time penalty, so I actually gained them points. And yeah, end up round win, which is good.
Wild and willing stuff at the end of the Kumho Tyres V8 Touring Car Series round at Sydney Motorsport Park. A fantastic season opener, and what a year we have got in store. Here are the points. Davies leads the standings, and Justin Geary dropped to third. As we suspected, penalised 10 points after that contact during the race with Tony Evangeli. Chris Smurden fourth, Briffa fifth, and some names behind it will be making up some ground as the series goes on, like Tony Evangeli, Nathan Masalit and Jim Policino.
Don't go anywhere, because after the break, our retro rewind of the Shannons Nationals continues with round 4 of the 2013 Australian GT Championship.